So this is like just a quick video, and I want to just talk about a couple of things. Generally, like how to find clarity with some of the stuff you're doing, as it pertains to work, whether it's financial or it's passion, whatever it is. Basically, really just to find like clarity as to the things that you're doing. So I had someone send me an email. I think it was 2 days ago. Was it someone I had consulted for? And she was basically telling me, like, giving me like the progress on how the things that we spoke about during our consultation has been going for her and all the rest. And one of the things that she mentioned was that she had like dropped a thing that she was doing before, and she's thinking of picking up something else. I can't of course go into details without her permission, right? But she's thinking of doing a couple things and she's a bit confused, right? Do I go into this? One of the things that she wanted to do, just because it's a bit broad, is web development. Okay, now people are saying that AI is taking over web dev jobs and all these type of things. So should I go into that? Should I build a personal brand? I know these type of things, right? And I sent a long recording and I decided to just like share like the general idea behind what I'm thinking about and a framework that I sort of like use to sort out the things that are in my life, right? So I have like my note here. I don't know if I feel like maybe I would like go to the board and write a couple things down, but then there are a couple things that you need to know before you eventually get started with anything, right? And I think like this is the preceding, or this is like the foundation for everything that I'm going to say. And it's basically try and sit on things for a while, right? Never be in a haste to like jump to certain things. And it's something that I'm genuinely still learning. It's not something that I have like perfected or anything yet, right? And I really like to think of stuff. I like to document, right? So like this book, I got it like very recently, and like it's already written a number of things inside, and it's like my idea book. I just write things that I'm thinking about. It's different for why I journal. Sorry. So um, I'm I think of things very spontaneously, right? And I really want to do them. So, there's something that we're doing in our business currently, like in the general brand, and we want to eventually switch the offers that we are currently giving out. So, if you go to takeavery.com, you see things that I do, right? So, we want to switch our offers later on, and I'm always thinking of ways that we can do that, how we can, transition into something else that would, benefit the company and then benefit a lot more people, right? So, I think of a number of ideas, I write them down, and what I'm learning to do is to basically calm down, to take a breather on the things that I'm doing before I implement them, to basically sit on them. Because what happens is I get really excited and I like come up with a full draft of the things that I just thought of and how exactly I'm going to carry them out. And I want to do that immediately. Only that I realized maybe like in the second week or third week that maybe either was not the best option, it's not what's going to maybe move the business forward or basically going to give me high energy. And I'm talking about this much more like the concept of high energy and all the rest, right? So I then stop it, right? And if I had like just sat on it and thought on it, asked myself a couple questions that I'm going to be sharing with us today, right? Then it would do us a lot of good, I think, to help us find out what exactly is we want to do and not like start, stop, start, stop, start, stop, and that cycle basically, right? So I think I want to switch to the board just to give you guys like a visual representations of things that are in my head, right? So let's do that. So this is the clarity framework. It's what I use when I'm stuck between couple decisions or I want to like make a big option or decision as it were in my life. So I either like do this mentally because I've been doing this for a while, or I like draw this out, right? So there's the destination is where we want to go, right? And there are two questions that you need to ask yourself. And unless you can answer these questions, then I really don't think you should start moving, right? And you would understand what I'm saying in a bit. The first question is the what, and the next question is the how, right? Then in between, of course, there can be why, but these are like two major questions, right? This is extremely important, and I will explain why. Why? So what? So this basically is what exactly is it that you want to do, and this is where a lot of people get stuck at. And in fact, this is one of the most important things because really the how would always sort itself. I think you should plan for the how, but genuinely, even if you start with the what without the how, you can eventually get to a destination, right? Because you would eventually find the how. It might take a longer time since you didn't plan at the start, but then you would eventually get here. So the what I think is extremely, extremely important. And it's what exactly is it that you want to do? Well, there are two questions that I think can guide you, right? Maybe I use another marker for this. Two questions that I think can guide you. The first is high energy, and the second is long term. These two questions are extremely, extremely important. Why? Well, if it's not high energy, if it's not something that gives you high energy, the way that we will translate it is passion, something you're passionate about. If it's not something that gives you high energy, then you might want to stop midway. Especially if we're talking about a financial decision, so something you want to do to bring in, some level of income. If it does not give you high energy, you would stop halfway or midway, as it were, basically when it doesn't seem like there's any progress being made, right? So it has to be something that gives you high energy because, so for example, I love creating videos, right? So, I look at some of my videos and I'm getting like a 5/10, like YouTube ranks like your top 10 videos. So I upload a video and it's like 5/10 or 7/10, as it were. And, of course, like I feel bad. If I there, I feel good, I'll be lying, right? But then what's going to make me keep making videos? It's not really because I know that if I continue, eventually it's going to work. Even though that is true, it's simply because I love making videos. So if I was told that, okay, Tega, you are never going to make money from YouTube, right? For whatever reason, your content is trash, or people just don't, I don't know, whatever reason, I would still keep making videos genuinely, right? Because some that I love to do is what gives me high energy. This video is not going to be edited because my editor is like sort of busy with other things right now. We have a couple of videos we're working on, but then I'm not going to edit this video that much, right? Because I don't like to edit, so it doesn't give me high energy. But you get what I'm saying, right? It has to give you high energy because you'd be able to pull through when things don't seem to be working. And the second is long term. And I think this is where a lot of people end, right? They don't ask themselves this question: is it long term? So, for example, in one of my videos, I shared how I stopped programming. I'm a computer science student, right? But I don't code. Funny stuff, right? But I spoke about how I stopped programming because I didn't ask myself the question of, is this something you wanted to do long term? Of course, I knew because my friends would ask me, "Oh, Tiga, like we're just gisting and everything. Do you see yourself coding, in the next 5 years?" And I'll be like, "God forbid, but I cannot be doing that, right?" And there's nothing wrong with it, right? It's not something that gives me high energy. It's not something that I'm really excited to do. Do you get? I'm more of a creative person, and of course, like developers are creative people because tend to build stuff and everything. But you get what I'm saying, right? So I didn't ask myself that. So what happened was I started learning, a couple programming languages: Python, Solidity, HTML, CSS, JavaScript. I just went on that spiral, and I eventually didn't like. I eventually like let it go, right? Because if I asked myself at the start, like sat down, take guys, something you want to do long term? No. So why pursue it now? Now, of course, now please take what I'm saying with a pinch of salt, right? I'm not a financial advisor, right? So take what I'm saying with a pinch of salt. But because in the long term section, there are people that would want to do things that are short term. So maybe side hustle gigs and all the rest, right? And do you, that's fine. But then at least from a personal point of view, it's not something that, and it's sort of like what I tell my clients, the people that, book sessions and all the rest, maybe depending on your situation, but at least at the current point in my life, I really want to be doing things that will be long term, right? It will last longer. I know that I can be in the game for a longer while because, the goal is not to get it right now. The goal is a long term thing, right? So if you can answer these two questions, you eventually get the what, right? You eventually get the what. Now, there are a couple things you might ask yourself this question, and you still would not know what exactly it is that you want to do, and that's fine. And now we go over to the how. By the way, the why is the final piece of the puzzle. Let me just talk about this. The why basically is why exactly. So when you find your what, why exactly are you doing it? Right? Why exactly are you doing it? And this why has to have some emotional reason attached to it. And until it does, you keep asking the question, why? Because this is what's going to keep you. So, why do you want to, build a personal brand? Is it because you want to make money? Okay, that's fine. It's an okay reason, but that's not emotional enough. And one of my clients said that the reason she wanted to make money was because she wanted to help her single mom out financially and everything to make it easier for the family. That's an emotional reason. So when things get tough, you remind yourself, this is why I'm doing it, right? It's extremely important. So we go to the how. So now there are two things that I want you to do. All right. Now, the first part of it, if you've already discovered your what, then for the first part of what I'm going to share, you don't need to follow it, right? But then, if you're still discovering your what, or you don't really know what exactly is you want to do, let's go over to the how. So the entirety of the how is divided into 6 months, right? And I know because I consult with a number of people, and every time I mention like time frames like this, there's a subtle bit that happens in your mind. Like 6 months is a long time. I mean, you can complete it in 5 weeks and all the rest. Well, the thing is, if you complete it in 5 weeks or in 3 weeks, then you would have done it already. The reason why you haven't done it is because you can't do it in that short a time, right? So 6 months is the time frame. So we can just put 6 months here. Is the time frame that we're going to use for it. Now, the first 3 months, and the way I like to think of it is 12 weeks instead of 3 months. So it's 12 weeks and 12 weeks, right? So the first 12 weeks is going to be used to discover your what. So we can say that it's used for, let's use another marker. So we can say it's used for discovery. I have something here in my notes. Discovery and then personal development, right? So I'll explain why these two are extremely important. So the first 12 weeks is for discovery and personal development. Even if you've discovered your what, I still think the personal development is extremely important because you can be so sure of your what and later on change that because a number of factors have come into play. Right. So discovery, what exactly is this? Well, it's still connected to this, finding out what is, what exactly is that you want to do. So this is the discovery phase, and the way that we do this is simply by reading books, copious amounts of books, right? So what books do you and one thing I've learned, and I'll probably make another video about this, is you tend to read books faster when you are seeking information from the book instead of like doing that arbitrarily, right? So, for example, I was reading one of the books I'm going to mention now. So, okay, let me just do that. So, three books that I think that you can get started with. So, since it's 12 weeks, of course, you can read maybe you can read a couple other books as well within the 12 weeks. So, maybe like I don't know, 6 books or 8 books as well. I don't know, in 12 weeks, right? So three books that I think you should get started with is Designing Your Life. Design Your Life, I think by Bill Burnett, something along those lines. The next book should be 90-Day Brand Plan. I can't remember who wrote that. Then the third would be Deep Work by Cal Newport, right? I think these three books are extremely important. So the first one is going to help you restructure the way you think about how you approach life. And it's also going to help you learn how to test the things that you want to do. So in business how you build like an MVP, so a minimum viable product, to test out certain things. That's what that book will teach you how to do. So say you wanted to learn how to program, or you wanted to build a personal brand, or you wanted to get into business, right? You'd be able to test all these things in batches. So you don't go full in on one and then find out that's not something you want to do later, right? So I think that book is extremely important, right? So for the 90-day brand plan, I think I read that in about 5 days, and it was because I needed it for something, right? So when you are reading books because of discovery, then you do a lot faster and you get more excited in doing that. So do this within the 12 weeks, right? So, and eventually at the end of 12 weeks or even before, you will find out exactly what you want to do. So the idea is that you're reading personal development books, and that's what this is, right? So you don't know what to do, start with personal development, right? So start reading books, so Atomic Habits, Digital Minimalism, right? And a bunch of other, Psychology of Money, and all these type of things. But basically, immerse yourself into building yourself personally, and eventually you find out what it is that you want to do. That's the way it works, right? So once you do this for the first 12 weeks, at the next 12 weeks, you would have already discovered what it is that you want to do. All right. So we're moving from here. And at this point, this is where you're implementing the things that you're doing, right? So so we have, what did I write here? Okay. Testing. Sorry, other marker. So we have testing and deployment. So testing and deployment. So testing, because at the end of the day, you still need to find out if it's something that you want to do, right? Reading an article simply is not going to cut it, because you can realize that you want to program, you like the bits and pieces of it. Then when you eventually start doing it, you realize that maybe it's not something you want to do, right? So you test, right? It's extremely important. And then deployment. So if after testing you realize something you want to do, then you go full in on it. It's as simple as that. All right. And a rinse and repeat of this process is basically what's going to get you towards your goals. And of course, like, we can go deeper into how exactly you're going to deploy, and this is going to happen This, of course, is going to be different with different things, right? But then at the end of the day, it's basically this, right? So I think this is like the framework that I use personally to gain clarity on the things that I'm doing. And I think if you at least attempt it, you should get closer to your goals. It's going to take a while, right? I mean, 12 weeks, right? But then eventually you should get much, much closer to becoming the person that you want to be, right? So I mentioned consultations in the past. So if something that you wanted to, you're interested in that, right? You can just hit the click. You can just click the link in the description. Thank you for your time. Bye.